Sex has countless natural permutations, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe that is consistent with medical science and under the Daubert standard, the science that comes in as expert testimony in trials.
On October 13, 2020, while you were serving as a state judge, you wrote an article for The Atlantic entitled, quote, your words, not mine, "America's judiciary doesn't look like America." And you criticized this committee and President Trump for his judicial nominees. You said, quote, these are your words, not mine. "The judiciary crafted over the past 4 years does not look like America. Not one of these judges is black, and more than 90% were raised or currently identify as Christians." I don't know how you knew that. And then you say, quote, your words, not mine, "Identity is the lens that filters everything and everyone we encounter," end quote. Did I read that correctly?
What you just watched is not rudeness. It's not bullying. And it's definitely not grandstanding. What you just watched is accountability in real time. Senator John Kennedy did exactly what confirmation hearings are meant for. He tested credibility, consistency, and honesty, and frankly, the answers didn't hold up. This wasn't about ideology. This wasn't about gender. This was about a judicial nominee who authored political and ideological articles while serving as a judge and then repeatedly claimed she couldn't recall them when questioned under oath. That matters. If someone wants a lifetime seat on the federal bench, memory lapses aren't acceptable, especially when the receipts are printed, dated, and quoted word for word. I'm Audrey, this is Congress Lens, and here we don't filter accountability through feelings, we filter it through facts. If you believe judges should apply the law, not reshape it through personal ideology, like subscribe and turn on notifications, because this conversation isn't ending anytime soon. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Senator Butler. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Wise, you're not being honest with us, are you?
That is incorrect.
Well, we all may be poorer under President Biden, but we're not stupid. We have a long list of your articles and your opinions and your political statements. On March 8, 2017, you wrote an article for Time magazine while you were a sitting judge. It's entitled, "Judge, Gender Laws Are at Odds with Science." I'm going to quote your words. "When legislators blur the lines of church and state and enact laws that permit or prohibit conduct based on biological gender as only male or female, they place an impossible burden on the judiciary," end quote. Did I read that accurately?
I do not know because I don't have the article in front of me.
Well, I do. You also said in that article, quote, your words, not mine, "Sex has countless natural permutations," end quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe that is consistent with medical science and under the Daubert standard, the science that comes in as expert testimony in trials.
On October 13, 2020, while you were serving as a state judge, you wrote an article for The Atlantic entitled, quote, your words, not mine, "America's judiciary doesn't look like America." And you criticized this committee and President Trump for his judicial nominees. You said, quote, these are your words, not mine. "The judiciary crafted over the past 4 years does not look like America. Not one of these judges is black, and more than 90% were raised are currently identified as Christians. I don't know how you knew that. And then you say, quote, your words, not mine. Identity is the lens that filters everything and everyone we encounter. End quote. Did I read that correctly?
Again, I don't know because I don't have the article in front of me.
I got it right here. You wrote another article on July 31, 2020 for the San Francisco Daily Journal, in which you advocate for the right of sitting judges to be able to go to protests, didn't you?
That is incorrect.
No, it's not. I'm looking at it right here. This is what you say. No judge should be ethical. Your words, not mine. You just said you didn't say them. You turned these articles over. No judge should be ethically constrained from speaking or taking action that reinforces that constitutional and moral imperative. May judges participate in demonstrations that denounce racism, support equal justice, and reinforce our constitutional rights to free speech and peaceable assembly? Yes. End quote. Did I read that correctly?
I don't know because I don't have the article in front of me.
If you're a federal judge, are you going to go to protests?
I would like to answer the substance of the underlying question that was asked.
I'd like you to answer my question. I've only got another minute or so. If you're a federal, let me put it another way. Have you ever gone to a protest, a public protest, while you're a sitting judge?
Senator Kennedy, the article that you are referring to
Have you ever gone
written...
to a protest while you're a sitting judge?
I do not believe that I have ever attended a protest as a sitting judge, or perhaps ever in my life.
And you talk about Girls Inc. You say you've never heard of them. You were on the, or you don't know that much about them. You were on the board from 2014 to 2024. You're still on their board, aren't you?
I'm not. My term expired this last month.
And you've given them over $50,000, haven't you?
I do not believe that is correct.
That's what your report says. And this is the same Girls Inc. that says, quote, on its website, here's how they define girls. Quote, girls refers to gender expansive youth, cis girls, trans girls, non-binary youth, gender and non-conforming youth, genderqueer youth, and any girl-identified youth. Did I read that correctly?
I don't know. I've never heard of that policy or that definition
Right.
from Girls Inc.
Listen, in spite of your, can I just have 30 more seconds? In spite of your strongly held political beliefs, and we've got all of them, all your articles, they're as long as King Kong's are you telling us today, do you believe that you will not allow your strongly held political beliefs to influence your judicial opinions? Do you believe that?
The best evidence of the type of federal judge I will be,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
type of
Do you
judge,
believe that? Do you believe that?
is the type of judge I have been for 10 years, who is one who always puts the law above my personal
Do you
views.
also believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe in the Tooth Fairy?
Your time has expired, Senator.
Do you believe Jimmy Hoffa died of natural causes?
Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let's be very clear about what happened in this hearing, because a lot of people will try to spin this as Senator John Kennedy being harsh or mean. He wasn't. He was precise. John Kennedy came prepared with published articles, direct quotes, timestamps, and sources, Time Magazine, The Atlantic, and the San Francisco Daily Journal. These weren't tweets. These weren't offhand comments. These were thought-out ideological essays written by a sitting judge. And that's the core issue. When Senator John Kennedy read Judge Wise's own words back to her, on gender being fluid beyond male and female, on identity being the lens through which everything is viewed, on judges participating in protests, the response was the same every single time. I don't know. I don't have the article in front of me. That answer stopped being believable after the second time. You don't write nationally published opinion pieces and then forget their core arguments, especially not when those arguments directly touch constitutional interpretation, judicial ethics, and political identity. John Kennedy wasn't asking trick questions. He wasn't misquoting. He had the articles in his hand. What made this exchange especially troubling is that Judge Wise didn't say, "Yes, I wrote that, but here's how I view my role now." That would have been honest. Instead, the pattern was distance, denial, and deflection. Then came the protest issue. The article clearly questioned whether judges should be ethically constrained from participating in demonstrations. Yet when John Kennedy asked a simple yes or no question about attending protests while serving as a judge, the answer was evasive until pressed repeatedly. That matters because judges aren't activists. They're referees. If the public starts believing judges are marching for causes, confidence in neutrality collapses, and John Kennedy understood that instinctively. And then there's the Girls Incorporated issue. John Kennedy didn't invent the organization's definition. He read it directly from their website. When Judge Wise claimed unfamiliarity despite serving on the board for nearly a decade, it raised another credibility issue. You don't sit on a board, donate tens of thousands of dollars, and remain unaware of the organization's core ideological framework. Again, the problem wasn't the ideology itself, it was the refusal to own it. John Kennedy's final question cut to the heart of the entire hearing. Can someone with such deeply documented political beliefs truly separate them from judicial decisions? That's not a rude question. That's the most important question. And when the answers didn't come, John Kennedy used sarcasm, not as cruelty, but as exposure. Sarcasm is what happens when basic accountability is met with repeated non-answers. This exchange wasn't brutal because of John Kennedy. It was brutal because the record contradicted the testimony. Confirmation hearings aren't a formality. They're a firewall. And in this case, Senator John Kennedy did exactly what voters expect. He defended the idea that judges answer to the Constitution, not to personal ideology wrapped in selective memory. That's not merciless. That's responsible.